Hi, folks. This video will cover and focus specifically on looking for jobs, in particular, taking a quick look at the role that LinkedIn and Google may play in your particular search. So we'll take a look at those features and then speak relatively quickly on the topic of applying and interviewing for positions and also negotiating that all-important contract. So let's dive right in. What I want to just showcase here, and there's a number of good resources that are highlighted in our reading list, including how to prepare your resume for the digital world. You've likely heard, but there's a lot of automation in terms of what goes on now. When you're applying through Google and LinkedIn, they're going through and they're scanning resumes and they're extracting a lot of those keywords that the employers are searching, and they're helping to kind of triage which of those resumes is getting through to the recruiters and getting through to the HR and the committee that are doing the hiring. So take a look at those readings and the videos in particular that are focused on that. What I'd like to focus here in this particular video, though, is just to showcase the great features and tools that both LinkedIn and Google are providing for job seekers. So when you go on your LinkedIn profile, up here across the top, you're going to see that you have a jobs tab. Okay, so you click on jobs. And then from there, right, you have the ability up in this top left-hand corner to go ahead and search not only for the title, the type of job you're searching for, but also where you want to find it. So let's just say I was searching for a director of professional development job. I click there. Okay. And notice that I only clicked it on the United States. So now one of the things that happens is it gives me this option to set an alert for this particular search. Okay. So I could narrow this down, right? And I could maybe bring this to, let's say, Florida, right? So we're going to click on Florida. And so now you can see that the results have diminished from something like 9,000 to 638. And again, I can simply click on this tab and it would set an alert. And what that would do is whatever email that I have registered with this account, every time a new job got posted that matched my search terms, I would get an email and it would let me know. So that's pretty fantastic. And then from there, once you have identified your particular job title and the location, you can start going through these tabs up here and you begin to narrow down your focus a little bit more to find something that's maybe more appropriate for your experience level, maybe the ability to work remotely, for example, or how recently the position was posted. Now, one of the things that's also great about LinkedIn is that some of the jobs at times will allow you to use your LinkedIn profile to apply for the job, or sometimes they'll give you just the button to click to apply. I want you to be very careful in that when you click on apply for some of these, it won't automatically apply using your information. You usually will be taken to the portal for the job application itself, but there are some where you'll see this little icon right here that says apply easily. And usually what that means is that this employer has opted into allowing you to use all of your LinkedIn profile to apply easily. And so that can be really handy if you're doing a big bulk application. At the same time, one of the things that I really want to point out and highlight in this video is how important it is that you are leaning on and utilizing an active networking approach to your job search. The vast majority of hires that are being done are coming through referrals. People know somebody that works at the organization, somebody's referred them, somebody has a contact within the hiring committee, and just leaning on those resources is so important. If you're doing just blind applications, there's a good chance you're not going to get anywhere near the traction that you would by putting that time and energy and effort into going into your network, right? So think about the people that you've worked for. Maybe you want to look at your friends and your family, your parents, aunts, uncles, brothers, and sisters, what organizations they're working for, and begin to start networking through them. And then kind of pushing your job application materials through those resources will be so much more effective because they're pre-vetted. Somebody is going to pass that along saying, I know this person and they're legitimate and they'd be great for the job, as opposed to hoping that your resume is going to get through some of these portals. But one of the things that I love about LinkedIn, as we were just looking at there a moment ago, right, is that I can see sometimes if I have a connection that might be working at a particular location, right? So there's an alumni from UConn that works at this company, Emeritus, right? We have an alumni that works at this company, Flexport. And so now I can begin to start to narrow down, right? Maybe there's somebody that I know, maybe I have a connection that works at this organization, and I could reach out to them and see if they would be willing to share some information with me, or maybe even help my application get into the right hands. So that's one of the things that's great about LinkedIn, is being able to see who you know that might work at the organization and use that to leverage a network approach for the job application. Now, we also have Google Careers, which is relatively a new service from Google in the last few years. And the web URL, as you can see there, is careers.google.com. And you're going to want to go ahead and sign in to whatever your professional Gmail account is, because that's where your alerts are going to be set up. So from there, across the top here, you've got a few different options, but the one that I'm going to focus on right now is jobs. So very similar to the LinkedIn approach, you'll be able to start by going ahead and entering the job title. So Director of Professional Development, I'm going to click enter. All right. And now I have the option to once again start to narrow down where I want to do this search. So we'll say Georgia. All right. And so we can see that there's, for example, one position that currently comes up on this, and I can turn on, again, a job alert for this particular search. Now, every time a Director of Professional Development job would open up in Georgia, this alert would then send me an email, and I would get an email in my inbox anytime that that comes up. You have the option up here to click save. And of course, that will go to your saved jobs folder. And then you can manage your job alerts, any of those that you've set up, any of those that you've turned on here. You click on job alerts and you can turn them back off so that you don't keep getting those job alerts if you're no longer interested. So the one thing that's nice about Google Careers is it's relatively easy to do some quick searches. I do tend to like their job alerts a little bit better than LinkedIn's. But again, the one thing that I really like about LinkedIn is that I can see who is working there and who I know, and then start to draw some connections and correlations between any shared individuals in my network or somebody that I know's network, and begin to start to communicate and work with those folks a little bit more easily to actually get my materials into the hands of those people who are making the decisions. Next, I just want to take a few moments to talk about applying and interviewing for the position. That's obviously, an important topic that is, widely covered. This is a course on professional communication, so obviously those application skills really will come into play. But what I want to focus on here is just making sure that for those initial interviews that we're relying and actually utilizing all of the things that we've talked about from a professional communication standpoint. Being brief, right? Having very succinct and clear answers, relying and utilizing those ABT methods of telling anecdotal stories that convey our values without us having to explicitly state what some of those values may be, and ensuring that we have gone through all of the posted materials for the job, every single detail that is in that job description, and you're highlighting key terminology. So whether it's adjectives that they're using or whether it's terminology that's related to the job, that should be directly part of the vernacular that you're using if you really want that job. And that might actually have you, if you're going to do it virtually, which I'm assuming many of the initial job applications and interviews that we'll be conducting for the foreseeable future, or maybe forever will be, is that you've got your notes in front of you and you're realizing that you can use those words rather easily as you're communicating and working with the interview. So that's one of the things I really want you focusing on, is extracting those key terms and any of those vocabulary terms that are inside of the job description and getting them into your vernacular of the delivery. What I also want to just highlight really quickly is negotiating that original contract. That first contract can be so critical. And the big piece of advice that I have for folks, especially early in their career, is to make sure that they have a really good understanding of what their market rate or value is. And I think for many of you, it's probably going to be based on an hourly rate to start, even if you're going for a salary, and understanding what does your salary break down to by an hourly rate, and then begin to kind of look at, well, what are freelancers making in that area at an hourly rate? And what are some of the market conditions that are influencing that hourly rate? And how is the geographic location impacting that hourly rate? And so really starting to hone in on, like, what is the actual number that you're seeking? One of the things that I've seen on both sides of the table going into these scenarios is prospective employees coming in to negotiate a salary and not knowing what their number is. So going in and being offered something and either taking it or not thinking it's enough, But then when being asked, well, what is enough? How much is it that we need to pay you to hire you? Not having a number on the spot can kill you. A lot of times what ends up happening is you're going to work with a hiring manager, or maybe you're going to work directly with the manager or the vice president, let's say, that you're going to work for in the organization. They're going to be doing your negotiating. So they call you and they offer the job and they say, we're going to pay you this amount of money. And you say, that's not enough. And they say, okay, well, what is it? You're going to have that moment to have your number, because they have to now go back and talk to internally whoever is actually going to authorize whatever that payroll amount's going to be. And they're not looking to spend any more time on this than they need to. So if you're not prepared, it really kind of doesn't lend well for your credibility. And it's also not going to be good if you stay with that organization and then you go to renegotiate the contract. You want to come in and really be very forthright with your number. You don't have to feel embarrassed or ashamed for asking for more money. That's an important part of the process. And I always encourage folks to ask for more, even if they don't get it, because it sets a precedent that you have a certain standard, and that maybe with good performance, you'll be coming back and asking for a raise or an increase in the near future. So those are all things that I would be encouraging you to think about and to be ultimately prepared for as you go into those scenarios. And then finally, something to make sure that, is oftentimes a good negotiating tactic is, if it can't be salary, ask for things maybe like travel, or even ask for professional development. So is the organization willing to help you take courses, get certifications, pay for personal coaching that can help you advance your skills? So if they're committed to you on the team, that might be another way that in the short term, especially early in your career, you can get some added value and bonus from your employer. Maybe it's not salary, but they're investing in your skills, which should in turn hopefully make you a more desirable candidate going further, whether it's with that organization or with another organization. So lots of information out there in terms of job searching and applying and interviewing for positions. These are just some tips, some techniques, and best practices that I have experience on both sides of the table over the last decade plus. I hope you find it relatively useful. Dig in, set up those alerts, start getting some things in your inbox. It can be really inspiring and empowering, waking up in the morning and you see there's different job opportunities out there and you click on them and you read them and you begin to think, is this a job that I'd be interested in? Would I be motivated in living this place or working for this organization, and those sorts of things. So by having it constantly come in, you're being reminded of what you're working for. I think it's a great reminder of why you're doing the things that you're doing to kind of advance yourself in those careers. So set up your alerts and start to think about what your market rate is. Start to think about what you believe your kind of relative earning power right now is, whether it be in the state that you currently live or where you would like to live, and understanding how those geographic factors are going to influence your relative salary, and start thinking about what types of professional development bonuses that you might also be incentivized for your next employer. Good luck.